Hello everyone, this is Bentley, and today we're going to do the second part of the fish room tour. We did the fry room last week. This week we're going to go into the display room. So, let's not waste too much time. Let's go ahead and go downstairs into the fish room. Okay guys, we're going to start off in the display room now. So we're just kind of give you a little pan around so you can see everything. And then we'll walk through. Biggest change, of course, back here in the corner, there used to be a couple of 10s and some storage. That's now a 120. It's like a 125. It's a kind of weird custom tank, but it was made by Jason Gregory of Clear Fabrications. It's pretty nice. I got it used from a friend. Of course, Fox the Iguana's enclosure. And then some small changes, like we're testing out hanging some of my awards from my local club up here. You can see there's only 4 for right now, just kind of seeing how they look before we put them in order and do all this stuff. So let's start with Fox. She's shedding right now. This is her big clean day for her enclosure. She gets kind of 2 major cleanings through the week, and she gets a bath about every other day. So just in case you're curious of our regime, right now the heat lamp is up here. Temporarily on this board. We're going to eventually put it up top. We're going to drill through the top and have a hang point for her just to keep it safe so that she can't like crawl directly on the bulb, but to get it up top so it basks down. And then you can see we've got a fluorescent light, and we'll be replacing a UV tube up there to give her a little more UV. She's a little cautious. This enclosure, just for those curious, is 6 foot from the back window there to the front where we are. It is 7 foot tall and 4 foot across. So that's a pretty big enclosure, but she's about a 4 foot lizard, so she really needs that much room. One of her favorite things to do in the morning, although she's a little angry right now, she's watching me, she's not sure what's going on, is she'll hang against the chicken wire in the back there and just sun herself in the window. She loves doing that, does it all the time. From there, we'll move over to the left, and we'll go to the 90 gallon. So you guys have seen this. I've done lots of stuff on this. At one point, I raised rainbow fry in this. What all do we have in here? So we've got cycles, the shabunk and goldfish. We've got a bunch of different rainbows. We have some miscellaneous quarries, and then 2 pairs of plecos, not necessarily male-female pairs, just 2 of each. There is the L333 Yellow King Tiger pleco. You can see one of them hanging out there as Cycles bombs past. And then I have 2 L128 Blue Phantom plecos in here as well. I've noticed since I moved them from their initial 10-gallon where they were growing out, they're a lot more out. There's fish above them. There's all these plants. You can actually see the tail of the other. Hold on, let's get over here. And I've got some B-roll to show you guys too. I had the tail, but then he jolted in. One of them is shyer than the others. It's the same for the Blue Phantoms. One's more shy than the other 2. Or the other one of the 2. Let's speak English. Anyway, let's talk plants. So there's 2 Amazon swords, a Marble Queen sword, and you'll notice that they're looking a little worse for wear right now, showing some pretty serious nitrogen deficiency. I just put a bunch of root tabs in this tank to help them out. They're big, they're eating a lot more than normal, but if you look in the center of, like, say, this Amazon sword, we'll get you in here. I'm going to get my gimbal to work with me. You'll see a bunch of new growth, and it's all perfectly fine. So it's kind of just the old growth, which just shows, like, it was a nutrient deficiency. The new growth is coming in fine because it's getting the nutrients it needs now. Then as we go further left, we have the Madagascar lace. It's in its I'm not happy mode. It grows giant and then wilts away and grows giant and wilts away over and over again. It's in wilt away mode. And then a whole bunch of Cryptnurii pahang mutated. So you can see it's a lot smaller in this tank than it is in the Guppy Mansion that we showed you last time. But I've got quite a lot more of it in here. And then as far as rainbows, we have some Bozemanii Atinjo, as the male is right there, and there's 3 females. These are the Rosario LaCourte lines. So there's 2 kind of major lines as far as big name breeders. There's Gary Lang's, and then there's Rosario LaCourte's. The big difference is these guys are like incredibly stunning in the morning and then slowly fade through the day. Gary's kind of have a unified color the entire time. Like you look at Bob's Bozemanii that I have, they stay the same color basically the whole time, except when doing courting displays. This boy is like really vibrant in the morning and slowly fades and gets kind of like washed out looking toward the evening. The other major fish in here, there's some randoms, like there's a turquoise, there's a praecox, but the other major fish in here is my group of Glossolepis wanamensis, or the emerald rainbow, and we're going to follow this guy right here. It's one of my main boys. They're a little shy of the camera, so they're not spreading their fins all the way out, but these guys get really long, beautiful fins. They're brilliant green color. A lot better than the ones you would get in a store. The store ones will be like almost a brassy color with a little bit of green. You'll notice like they're almost entirely green, and when I show you some B-roll that I'll splice in here, you'll see it more, and there's only little hints of that kind of brassy or red tone underneath. So that's how you know like the good line versus the bad line. Mine come from Mark Nicholson's line. That for you rainbow fans, you'll know exactly who that guy is. If you don't, he's got basically the best line in the United States for the wanamensis. This tank's really simple. You can see there's the caves for the plecos. There's 5 caves for 4 plecos, so they have plenty of room. It's a simple beamswork EA F-spec light. So there's the DA and the EA. The EA just has less bulbs, and it's a little cheaper. The DA has more bulbs. It's slightly more expensive. That's the only difference. They're almost the exact same light. And then filtering this bad boy, we have 2 Tidal 110s. You know, I actually have kind of fallen in love with this filter, and let me explain why. For rainbows specifically, they give really good flow, and because they're not as big front to back, they're taller in their containment. I don't have to have the tank as far out from the wall, so in this case, I couldn't fit a Tidal 110 on this tank very well, but I could fit I used to have a Aquaclear 110. I used to have an Aquaclear 70 on this with the Tidal 110. I swapped it to another Tidal 110 that I had spare. It just has huge filtration capacity. There's a lot of little things that are good about it. There's a couple small things that suck. Like if you let your water level get too low, it makes this nasty sucking sound from the skimmer part. If I were to redesign it, I'd do some things. But overall, I think this is just a really solid filter. You can see this one is due for its maintenance. It's got the little thing popped up. This one is basically brand new. Its thing is not popped up. It's perfectly fine. So that's the 90, and you'll notice even there, even despite that, we've still got a sponge filter in here, running some oxygen, extra filtration, lots of plants. You can see I do the dual heater method on my bigger tanks. I just think it's a little safer for tanks that need to be warmer. From there, we'll splice in the last little bit of B-roll and a bit of a voiceover, and then we'll move on.
Here we can look deeper into the 90-gallon tank, where we see one of my favorite rainbows. The wanamensis, or emerald rainbow fish, is truly majestic when they become adults. Those dorsal fins get very long, and as you can see, they stand out amongst the crowd. And even fish like this, a blue phantom pleco, become more active when there's a lot of fish swimming above them and lots of plants to hide around.
Okay, so now we'll move on. So the storage that used to be out there is temporarily kind of here. At first, we were planning to put it where Fox's enclosure is, but then we found Fox, and this is kind of the necessary place for right now. Eventually, it's probably going to get moved We just haven't figured out really where we want to turn our storage into. We'll probably actually use over here where the shallow tank is. So you can see like my chair where I just kind of sit and be lazy. And this is how I enjoy this fish room, is I'll just sit in my recliner. So Bob Steam Fight pointed out, I've got a bunch of World of Warcraft collector's editions over here. You can see some Magic and a bunch of like RPG books. I'm a giant game nerd. I used to play a lot of games. This is some of my old stuff. I'll probably get cleaned off. We'll probably install an extra shelf here and use the top of this as our storage. And then we've got the shallow tank down here. We'll kind of come in real quick. I actually finally added some life to this. There is some yellow Neocaridina in here now. Not many. There's only like 12. You can see one racing across right there. You can see I'm dealing with a little bit of algae, and I got to do a top-off water change here. But for this tank, we're mostly going to show you some B-roll and do a little voiceover. So let's cut over to that stuff right now.
The shallow tank is something special. For the longest time it has been just plants, and even though all this algae grew, I grew it with the intention of leaving a food supply for these shrimp, even though I didn't know what shrimp were going to be in this tank. You can see this shot here, where the focus is on the front of the tank, and everything else is just kind of a blur of color in the background. And yet, despite all that, you cannot miss those bright yellow shrimp.
Alright, so from that, we will move over to the main kind of display of my rainbow fish community. We'll step back a little so you can see the whole thing. This is a 6-foot long tank, so it's about 135 gallons or so. And it's old, but I love it. I'll eventually get away from the glass, but this is kind of my Marquee rainbow tank. This is the first tank I had rainbows in, and it has been my kind of long-standing quote display tank. So let's run through what we have in here. A bunch of different rainbows. You have turquoise, you have Ayamaru bosemani, there's some Australis, there's a couple adult Goldii decais, and then there's some Goiter River rainbows, and a bunch of male Irian rainbows, so the red rainbow. We have a couple of roseline sharks. There's a big albino bristlenose female in here who's always hiding during the day. And then finally, there's some big SAEs that will be leaving soon, because Aquarium Co-op has this really cool deal where like you can bring in big SAEs if they've dealt with you long enough, and they'll trade you a young SAE for a big SAE. I think you have to bring in like 2 for every young one you get or something like that. But I don't know if that's technically a public policy, but I know that they told me like, hey, you can bring in your big ones and we'll give you some young ones because we know that you use them a lot. So big shout out to Robert. Thanks, brother. Helping me out there. So let's talk plants in this bad boy. We'll kind of go across. I've got a bunch of stuff floating up here. It's kind of hard to see. Let me see if I can get my... There we go. So there's a bunch of like just water wisteria up here floating, and a little bit of Nymphoides Taiwan. Those are some of like the beginner plants that I love having for people that are new to plants. There's a bunch of, as you can see, Anubias Nana Petite throughout all this rock, and a little bit of Boos Super Red Mini also mixed in. You can see my Dragonstone. It's looking a little worse for wear. If I could keep Amanos in this tank without the rainbows harassing them and killing them, I would. But that just doesn't happen. The rainbows like just keep picking on them. Then we have a bunch of Anubias Nana Golden. There's a bunch of Crypt Wendetii, just kind of the green bronze variety, real common throughout here. There's 2 Crypt Affinis Metallic Reds. There's the one back here behind all this Anubias. And then there's another one right here. And then a whole ton of red Tiger Lotus. And these stems have had a better day. They need to get trimmed down and fixed, but there's some others that are floating right now. This is Pogostemon stellata, so a little different than the octopus, but very similar. It's just a cool plant. When it has CO2, it looks way better, but it's still nice looking without CO2. For those of you who have seen that plant at Aquarium Co-op, Robert got those from me. But I quite like it. I just need to get it fixed in this tank, or swap it out. I might do a different plant entirely. This thing is powered by an FX6. And then up top you can see an old like Marineland Penguin 350B. As my light gets horrible over here. Come on. No, we don't want to. There we go. Sorry, guys. But overall, this tank's pretty simple. I actually really want to change the filtration some. I'd love to have either like another FX6 or convert this to a sump. Realistically, I want to convert this tank to acrylic and run it on a sump, but that's a longer-term goal of getting something a little more interesting and custom built. So let's go into some B-roll and some voiceover. I'll talk a little more about this tank, and then we'll move on to the project that is right beside it.
This was my first big tank coming back to the hobby. And if it was not for my love of rainbows, this would have been something entirely different. Instead, it has become the tank that I spend the most time watching. A little garden of serenity filled with some of my favorite fish. No matter how common, they are spectacular.
All right, so there's the better shots of the better camera. Now we'll walk around a little more with the old cell phone. So we come to the left, and that brings us to the newest tank. This is the one that I got from my buddy Gerald. He's a club member. He was kind of changing what he wanted around his fish room. Put it up for sale, give me a pretty good deal on it. It had a different sump with it. I changed that out. So we go low, you'll see there's a trigger system Sapphire. That's to the 39. And then a J-Cod pump that came from Gerald originally, and my dehumidifier and some spare parts. And then if we go this way, see substrate, only part of the substrate that's going in this thing. But this is really nice. It's a 5-foot tank. It's 24 front to back, and then it's 21 inches tall. So it ends up working out to be about 125 gallons. And then you add on the extra about 35 gallons the sump is. So it'll be a nice system. Get me right around about 160 total gallons of water running through it, and that it does not really include the overflows. There's a little bit more in the overflows, but you can see like one of the foods I'm feeding and some random stuff. This has kind of become temporary storage, so I've been trying out this Sarah Vipan. I like it and I don't like it at the same time. That's probably a different video, but some of the cool parts. Let me talk about the cool parts of this tank. So it's double overflow. Let me see if you can get this visible pretty well. I don't have B-roll for this just because it's empty, but when it's filled, we'll do a bunch of really cool stuff on it. These are 3D printed heads for the outputs that push the water in multiple directions so that basically no part of the tank is dead on flow. And I think it's just a really cool idea. Gerald got them built. Really, really sweet. This wood stand here was built by B-Rad. We just got to do a small, there's a couple extra screws that need to go in it, and we might like reinforce it just a touch, just to be paranoid about it, and then we'll get water in this bad boy and get rolling. This is where all of the Chilatherina, focus, there we go. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know why my phone is wigging out. Anyway, we will be putting all of the Chilatherina blaheri. So the party animals are going into this. This is probably going to be called Animal House. Just a heads up, that's guaranteed what you're going to hear it called as. We got the Guppy Mansion, we got Animal House, we got a couple other nicknames here and there, but for the most part, only the fun tanks are getting neat nicknames. This will be fun when we get it going. I really am looking forward to getting this going, doing kind of a full build process, and videoing that all for you guys. So finally, the last tank, well, before we hit that, you can see I've got this sweet poster from Gary Lang that I showed off in a live stream. It just shows all sorts of rainbows. Let's zoom in on it, because, I love this thing. So you can just see, even though there's the glare, my face. But lots of great fish on this thing, several of which I own, and some I don't. Some that I want to get eventually. But really cool. It's like the one major piece of fish art. Eventually what I actually want to do fish art wise, let's talk about that for a sec before we do the last tank. Last tank for a sec. Okay, we'll go there in a second. What I want to do is kind of similar to how Corey used to have shirts and shadow boxes. I'm going to do that across this top portion here. So a little bit of fish art, mostly shirts and stuff will go across here. So like a co-op, I've got the Corvus Oskin shirt. I have this cool shirt from Fluval for bug bites when I won something a long time ago. A little thing they did when the bug bites first came out. So that'll all go up there. And then if I get another poster like this, if Gary does another one that's got different fish, I'll probably put that, in a similar spot, probably up above this tank or something like that. So that's kind of like plans, art, stuff like that. Fox, who's had a freak out earlier, my first take trying to record this, so this is take 2. There'll probably be a blooper of that somewhere. Anyway, let's go to the last tank. This is my 29-gallon. Whoop, come on, there we go. Which right now is temporarily holding the wild-caught Rubros striata. Hi, roommate. They're going back to the 75 long that I have for them, which I've got some stuff shot of that you guys will see in just a sec. In kind of the other room that's not one of the 2 major rooms. Hi, other roommate. They didn't know I was filming. It's cool. So anyway, they're temporarily in here, which they're doing okay. For wild-caught fish, these have been the most stable fish I've seen in a while as far as like wild-caught. They're surprised. They were skittish for a couple weeks, but now they're pretty good. They're starting to slowly get some color in. They're very pretty, but they're wild-caught, so they're not going to be as colorful as some of the other stuff just because they're used to a different environment. In the aquarium, they're not going to show as much, but I've got some B-roll I'll splice in right here just so you can see it.
When I first got the 29-gallon, it was a rehome. And while I didn't do a whole lot to this tank other than rearrange the plants, the fish that have slowly cycled through have always been those that I've adopted. Kind of an homage to the person I received this tank from. For now, it is a temporary home for a wild-caught rainbow fish. One that, while it might not be as colorful as some of the others, has a very important subtle beauty that takes time to appreciate. When you sit and watch them long enough, you get to see just how majestic these creatures are, straight from the wild, and yet perfect in a home aquarium.
I'm really happy with these fish. They're moving to a 75 long acrylic that I have. They're former 40 long. In the end, they would have had to get out of it, and it sprung this like teeny tiny leak at the top of the tank. And I just didn't want to deal with it, so we emptied it and we moved them here. They'll go back there once that thing is fully cycled, which it's pretty close now. And then from there, I think like the running rivers will probably come out to this tank here, or a tank similar. Actually, I lie. So I'll tell you this now. Last week I think I said they were coming to a 29. I just confirmed with Joel. Joel's building a stand for me for a 100-gallon tank that is 4.5 foot by 20 by 20. So it's kind of a neat, weird dimensioned acrylic tank that I have. That'll probably actually end up here instead of this tank. In I think like 2 months. So I'll get the tank over here rolling first, and then these guys, all these fish will get transferred out. They'll go live in that 75 long. The kind of retirement community fish will probably go somewhere else for a little while. And then this tank will get torn down. The new tank will get put up. And once it's ready, all of the running rivers will get that tank. So you'll have the running river tank. You'll have Animal House. You'll have the rainbow community is in the 90 and the 135 or so. It's called a 150. I don't know why. It doesn't even hold 150 gallons. But don't ask me about how they used to do old tanks. And then over here, that would be all that. And Fox, who's looking. You can see her. It's time for cleaning day for her. You can see her one shelf is a little ugly, and she's just being frumpy. So that's it, guys. We'll do like one little kind of spin around. This is it for spring 2019 of the display room. My share of some extra awards because I'm a glutton for those things. So what I'd love to know is what tank do you like the most, or maybe you're looking forward to the most out of what I've told you guys. We'll go back to my smiling face. We'll do some final commentary, and we'll be done.
Well, there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed that tour. As I've kind of mentioned throughout the video, there's a lot of little projects happening in there. There's changes. And as you can see in my quote display room, I don't use any of my like fancier lights, and it still looks pretty good. Those are all Beamswork lights on the two main tanks. So the two big rainbow tanks, they're all Beamswork lights. If you guys are interested in a review, maybe some tips about the Beamswork, because it's just a good entry-level light. It's the first light that I bought when I came back to the hobby. I've noticed some stuff about it, but it'd be something that'd be interesting to give you guys my feedback. If you're interested in that, let me know down in the comments. Maybe I'll do it. So what I was going to say, beyond the acrylic that's a project tank, which, Animal House, I'm pretty certain I'm going to call it Animal House, is going to be really fun. I actually think I'm going to try to actually aquascape it a little bit. Nothing too crazy, but after judging my club's home show, I'm kind of inspired to just try something as opposed to just letting plants do their thing, which is normally my style, is the kind of the jungle style or whatever, where it's like, what is hardscape? Just put plants in places and let it do their thing. I was thinking kind of like not necessarily a true island, but like a triangular format, maybe kind of a mix of triangle and island. I'm not really sure, but creating something with like some lava rock and some manzanita to give some portion of interest, and then a lot of plants around it. I have some ideas. I'm not sure yet what I really want to do, because I want to make sure there's lots of swim space for the Blaheri, just because, they're going to get bigger. There's a good number of those fish. They need lots of swim space. So I don't want a ton of crazy hardscape that takes up all this room. I want lots of the upper portions of the water column to be very open for them. And then have room, down below, maybe some hides or something like that for something like, say, bristlenose plecos, which I think I'm going to get some super reds from Joel, if I remember correctly. I think he's still keen on giving me a few of those. I hope. we talked about it a while back. And then finally, kind of like the 29 that's there, which is holding the wild-caught rainbows. You might have noticed, this is just funny to me, so I have to notice, there's a big piece of cardboard like taped up behind that tank. So the back portion of my stairs goes to my upstairs of my house, which is, where I'm currently filming. One of my cats likes to sit behind it, the girl cat, and then she'll go through the bars and peek over and poke her head through and drink out of the fish tank. So we literally have the cardboard taped up there to stop her from getting into the fish tank, because we know it's scaring the bejibbany out of the fish. And, it's a habit we want to break. We don't want them to think that like it's okay to get into the tank, because then potentially the progression becomes, well, then can I play with this thing that's in the tank? And now we have hurt fish. So far, the cats have been really good about not trying to hurt the fish, not trying to hunt or anything, which is great. But at the same time, we'll take precautions where we can, just to be certain. What else we got? I mean, there's some extra like art and stuff that's going up. I got some extra art at AGA that I kind of forgot about. A couple of posters that were some giveaways that I'll probably be framing and putting up, as well as like a few t-shirts that I've mentioned. There's some certain people that I want to get shirts from. Like, I've interacted with Ron a couple of times with Friday Fish Facts. Probably got to find a way to get that shirt. I think I just got to harass him enough. Or maybe do like a collage of stickers of some of the smaller channels that I really like, that I'll like binge watch. Like I'll watch maybe 1 week out of the month. I'll go through and pick, okay, this small channel this week, and I'll catch up on like 5 or 6 of their videos really quickly in some of my downtime. And a lot of times it's just audio in the background while I'm working. But I like to kind of see what other people are doing. It interests me. Some of the other art that's out there is really cool. And then, of course, Co-op's got like 3 different shirts that are all really sweet. You've got the red shirt, the regular puffer shirt, the goldfish shirt, and there's other shirts that I can't get because I'm not that cool, no matter how much I try to harass Corey for them.
But stuff like that. I want to make that room a little better. And then over time, a lot of those lights will get turned into Fluval 3.0s, and the new tank will have a Fluval 3.0. It'll probably actually have two. It'll have CO2, so that the plants look really nice. But again, just like all my other tanks, I'm going to go low and slow on CO2. I'm going to put, I think 4 bubbles a second is about what I'm going to target, 3 to 4 in 160 total gallons of water or so, 140, somewhere in that range. So really not a lot of CO2. It's just enough to boost the plants, and for some of the plants that want CO2, that kind of struggle without it, it's just enough to get them to root in and do okay. I'm not trying to go for the Rotala macrandra that's Coke can red because it's getting so much light and so much CO2. I'm not trying to do that. I don't want to gas my fish out. Rainbows like a lot of oxygen, and even with a ton of extra oxygenation, going down into a sump and doing the things that a sump can do for oxygenation, I don't want to push that much CO2. But still, there'll be a little bit of CO2 in there, and we'll get the sump set up. And the whole goal is to do that tank kind of as a build project. So you'll get to see me substrate it, hardscape it if I am going to scape it. I'm still kind of debating. I'm kind of looking at what it's going to cost me to get some of the materials I want, and debating whether it's is that worth it, or should I, use that money elsewhere? Kind of the question of the day, right? And then finally, I guess the last thing I want to go over is, for those of you who have been picking up fish from me, I put out a thing on my community page that on July 1st, I'm going to force time into my schedule. I'm actually taking that day off of work, and I'm going to ship. So for those of you who have contacted me, thank you. A lot of you folks have been waiting a really long time. I'm sorry. It's just the way my schedule is. For those of you who are interested, you have an extremely small window to get this in there. Basically, I'll ship some guppies. I've got quite a few orders, so there's only a few more that I'm going to ship. And then whatever plants I might have left, if you're looking for plants, I can definitely do plants. And then there's a few other odds and ends. I do have one species of rainbow that I'm willing to ship a few of the fish out for, and those are the Chalatherina fasciata calibirus. And then there's one person who's been waiting, I think 9 months to get shellies from me, and he's getting shellies. And I think there's one other person who's probably going to, that at time of filming this I haven't contacted, by the time this airs I should have contacted. Hope that makes sense. So kind of the final thoughts. I really hope you guys liked. I did some small changes just with the gaps, trying to make the B-roll shift in not as intrusive. So it's we kind of walk through, talk about a tank, then we shift to the B-roll, then we walk through, talk about a tank, we shift to the B-roll. It's just a little stylistic. I felt it'd be a little cleaner. I know you guys I really didn't have any feedback so far that said I can't stand this part of the film, or I only wanted this part of the video. Hit part of my mic. I'm sorry. So professional, just smacking my mic. But I just wanted to make it a little cleaner, because after having done it the first time, I got some better ideas. I got a piece of equipment, so as you notice, the camera is a lot smoother walking around the fish room. I got a small gimbal for my cell phone, and so filming with that, it's a lot smoother moving around. It's not quite as shaky, which is really nice, because it doesn't look like I'm going to make people sick. So just let me know kind of in the comments your feedback about that stuff. As always, guys, if you have questions, you're welcome to reach out to my email. It's in the About section of my channel. I know it's normally not displayed for cell phone users. So, if you just comment, I'll give you my email in a comment. But I'm happy to try and help when I have time. I don't always have time to do so. And then, of course, for those interested in when I do ship things, it's going to be kind of rare, I'll be honest. It's just a way to get in touch with me and find out how that works. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you guys with all your warm comments. You guys have just been awesome. The premiere last week, and this will probably premiere too. So hi everybody in the premiere and chat. How you doing? Just, thank you guys so much. It's been really awesome engaging with this community, and sharing my knowledge and my hobby, my passion, and making lots of new friends like you wonderful folks in the process. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome.
Thank you for watching my video thus far. This is a preview of where those wild-caught rainbows are going to call home very soon. A 75-gallon long acrylic filled with a lot of plants. I'm looking forward to telling you more about this tank in the future. Stay awesome, my friends.
As far as like filtration, this is a really simple tank. It's just on 2 hang-on backs. So you can see here, if the light will adjust, there's 2 Tidal 110s that power this tank. There used to be an AquaClear 70. Whoa! Fox is wigging out for some reason, and I'm not sure why. We're gonna take a pause.